Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I have about 8 topics for this video from all over the world. Some of them dealing with Brics, some of them dealing with the Ukrainians, some dealing with Putin, Russia, Ukraine, and many others. Let's start with the first topic. The first topic is about an Russian commander in Ukraine or in Russia, at the border. He tells his soldiers that if they die, they will go to heaven. And obviously, Business Insider, the media who reports this, is very upset about it and very intrigued about it. But I will make a little comparison and contrast it with the Crusades. Yes, those Crusades. And I will tell you what the Crusaders were promised if they're going to go and fight their Muslim brothers in the Middle East. All right? So, just a little bit of tolerance. I personally disagree with these kind of things, just so you know. Next one. Putin decides to create a safe haven in Russia for people who want to trade liberal Western ways for Russian moral values. He signs a decree in which says, you know, guys, if you want to leave the garbage that these guys are trying to impose in your countries with their, klasnip your this, put this, identify it as, diversity, inclusion, and equity garbage. If you're sick of that, come to our European country and we're going to build it stronger. And then we might, change things in your country. I don't know how that will happen, since those countries, those baboons will put their claw on the nuclear weapons of those countries built by other people's ancestors, mind you. So that's the second article. I have 2 articles, second topic. And then the third topic has to do with how the Brits, some weasel politicians, fight to get in power. What do they offer? I made a point a few weeks ago where I said that it seems to me, and I think this confirms, and I will try to make this point, that the British politicians, and not only, look at this pattern in other countries, they are fighting over one another who will provide more military support to Ukraine. Be it in the United States of America, be it in Germany, Great Britain, and France, we'll give more help to Ukraine. We'll give more help to Ukraine. We'll give more weapons from the military-industrial complex. We're going to do this. And these guys seem to get ahead, in their political lives by doing that. And I will compare and contrast Starmer, who seems like the new prime minister of the British people, with about, 18%. That's how much his party had. He doesn't have one. So we have a prime minister in the democracy of Great Britain with about 18%. That's how many people voted for Starmer's party. But it's winner takes it all. Winner takes it all. So Starmer, with 18% of the popular vote, he gets to rule as the prime minister of all Brits. What about the other 82? What about those guys? And that's the system, the democratic system of Great Britain, who tries and lectures other countries for not democratic enough. We have a king, unelected. We have a prime minister, 18%. And we got what? Who else is over there? Who's elected over there? The guys in the House of Commons or the Lords? The House of Lords. Those ones? Come on, let's be serious. So I'm going to put Starmer and then Boris Johnson, who wants his job back. How? He promises everything. And who are going to be the beneficiaries? Military-industrial complex. So it seems like these guys are trying to please a certain segment, the one with guns, in order to somehow be propelled to leadership positions, which you can't be a leader if these guys are owning you and you kiss ass. Now, another one. I said this many times. And this is another piece of evidence where the other countries on this planet, remember this planet has about 193 to 194, depends, countries in the United Nations, 194. So when they say the world community, the international community, usually some Western countries, which is US, claims when they have 3 countries. When Great Britain, France, sometimes Italy, and Germany are the world community. when they say something, the world community, no, how many? There are 194 or 193. So why don't you go and run a little scheme and find out how many really support your garbage. So nevertheless, now it's a scramble for the plantation, Al Capone's plantation, which is about 30 to 40 countries out of 193, and the rest of the world, which seems to flock towards the guys who are kicked in the teeth by the Al Capone's plantation, Al Capone in general, and they flock to the new organization, new club, which I call the Club of the Very Good, all right? All right, China, India, Russia, and so on, which is on the foundation of Brics, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, all right, and Road and Belt Initiative or something, or Chinese. All these things are meant to bring these countries together that were by Al Capone. So I'm going to have Malaysia and Thailand applying for, okay, yesterday I covered this topic that Azerbaijan applied for Brics. Not only, many other countries applied for Brics. Now, next topic. Do you remember when, I remember, it was some German MPs, let's call it this way, from Bundestag, who visited Crimea, being under the Russian occupation. And then there were some journalists who were present in Crimea and I think in Donbass filming while under the Russian occupation. Do you remember what the Ukrainians said about these two incidents? They illegally entered our country because under, Crimea, Donbass and Luhansk and so on are still Ukraine. So you went over there, the Russians allowed you to come in something that they didn't own by the Ukrainians, definition, reality, and it is by the United Nations. Still, those parts are in Ukraine. Therefore, they were very upset and they called those guys illegally doing that and blah, blah. Now it's the other way around. The Ukrainians, NATO's invasion of Russia in Kursk and Belgorod, they had some American, Italians, and Ukrainian journalists going with the Ukrainian army in Russia, illegally coming over there and covering war without asking the Russian government for permission. So the Russians do the right thing and they open criminal cases against these American, Italian, and Ukrainian journalists, including CNN, the most trusted garbage in the news. And I have 3 articles dealing with that. Actually, 3 I have. 4. And another one is this. The Russians don't want peace talks. No, they don't. And I will tell you why. And I will tell you when they will be open to peace talks. So these are the topics. Let's start with the first one, which is the case for, washing your sins and going to heaven, or having 100 virgins or something. The same delusion. Anyway, Insider, August 20th, 2024, an elite Russian commander told Moscow's troops that they would go to heaven, end quote, if they died in Kursk. And my question as a baboon is going to be, so what? Didn't the Crusaders, the Christians, the Catholics said the same thing during the Crusades? Well, kind of, didn't they? I have a piece of work, let's put a study that will show us that exact statements. Here it is. So, a Russian commander said that soldiers who died serving their country, defending the motherland, and their Christian origin since, 1,000 years or so, in Kursk would go to heaven. Ukraine's counteroffensive in Kursk took its Western allies, invaders, and Russia by surprise. No, because the Western allies participated. Poles, Brits, and Americans, they trained these guys and operated, according to some articles I covered yesterday in a video. Kiev says its forces captured roughly A Russian Special Forces unit commander told the parents of conscripts that their children would go to heaven if they died serving their country in Kursk. Okay. All right, let's see this one. Let's look at this one. This is a whatever academy, Khan Academy. How was crusading justified? All right, so this is a piece of thing you can find on your own, and we're gonna have here. Let's go to the first one. So, saying that the crusading was a just war wasn't enough. Many writers communicated that crusading was holy warfare, meaning that it was a just war that was not only authorized by, but also realized by God himself. The commander did not go that far. In theological terms, then, God was the one taking action. God was the one waging war, and crusaders were divine tools rather than moral agents in their own right. Got that? And that's not the whole thing here. So, what were the crusaders doing? They said that the infidels, the Muslims, took over the holy place of Jerusalem, where our Lord Jesus Christ did this and did that. But that's also holy for themselves, for the Muslims as well. So this guy said, we're going to liberate them and at the same time occupy it, if you look from the Muslim perspective. Why? Because we're moral and they're not. And the same thing from the other guys. Remember, Saladin showed much more dignity and these guys here, the West. We don't look at that movie only. What was the name? I can't remember the movie with Orlando Bloom. Don't look only on that one. Read about it. Historical papers. And you're going to find out these guys were morally superior to the guys who tried to liberate Jerusalem. One example was just the liberation of that time, and Saladin said, all the women and children are allowed to go out. You guys were going to slaughter you. Why? Because the other guys did that first and killed. In the name of? Anyway, so that's the first part here. And I'm going to show you another one. And this is, all right, here it is. I think this is where I'm trying to be. Finally, crusading was also represented as a penitential warfare. This means that crusade was believed as an act of penance, a way to make amends to God for sins one had committed, so that an individual could achieve salvation through killing those people. You got that? It means that crusading was not simply seen as a necessary evil. It was seen as a positive spiritual good for those participated. Participants were not merely excused for their involvement. They actively acquired spiritual merit. In these simple terms, crusading was presented as a good deed, even though it involved killing people. So, do I think that's right? No, I think that's wrong. What the Russian said is wrong. What this guy said is wrong. But hey, we die for values that we have in a society. Values that might not be the same values of another society. So from their perspective, our reason to fight them, like for instance, bringing freedom and democracy, for instance, our values, pushing it onto other people should be like an invasion. These guys will see what's going on over here. But we thought we did the right thing. We fought evil, what we considered evil in a society. Those people, maybe they did not want democracy. Maybe they still wanted to be under a certain different kind of ruling. But hey, that's the way it is, my friends. Trying to impose on someone because you have high ground, high moral ground. So that's just informative piece of news. Now the second one, or at least a subject. Business Insider. Putin has decided that Russia is going to be a quote-unquote safe haven for people who want to trade liberal Western ways for Russian moral values. This is in quotation mark, obviously, and safe haven, right there. Moral values. Now, just to make sure we understand what liberal values are. Liberal values don't mean do every or any perversity that you might think of. I want to have this, I want to do this, not that. That's anarchy. And anarchy usually leads to hurting other peoples, and then you're going to have, tribes, clubs fighting, and then wars, and one eliminating the other club based on this kind of my thing. If don't hurt anybody else. So liberal values nowadays are I can do this, but you can't do this. I can do this, you can't do that. Liberal means from liberté, right? More freedom, liberty. Well, the guys who call themselves liberals are the Democrats. Well, the Democrats stand for more government. More government means more, how should I put it, laws. Not only laws, as I think it was Socrates, according to Plato, said that that's a contradiction between a country who claims it's freer than others, but has the most laws, most restrictions. If you have too many rules, I told you this difference when I was a kid. I asked my father, I said, what is the difference between, the law system in communist Romania at that time and the West, the free countries, democratic countries? And he just said like this. Well, the thing is like this. In the communists say this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, or you're allowed to do this. And the rest, that was not mentioned here, you cannot. It's illegal. So they gave you what you can do, and everything else that's not written in those 4 or 5 laws, you cannot do. It's illegal. It's the other guys, the Americans, the other guys, is the other way around. They tell you what you cannot do. You cannot do this, you cannot do this, it's illegal, and then everything else that's not mentioned in the 5, you can do. So it's the other way around. So again, the liberals should be these guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you cannot do, and everything else you can. The problem is they enhance this, you cannot do this, to such an extent that what you can do becomes smaller and smaller, and what you cannot do becomes larger and larger. That's not liberty, that's limiting of liberty. So, safe haven? Yeah, some people would immigrate to the European country of Russia, leaving the baboonish countries of Europe and United States of America. Why? Because you have traitors inside these countries, and they destroy these countries. The problem is when you're going to have the guys taking control of the nuclear arsenal of the Western countries, and they will look for for people who in the past did a wrong to them or to their ancestors, not to them, to the ancestors, and say, okay, now baby doll, I'm in charge of this kind of weapons that those guys, evil guys, built for me, and I'm gonna kill all of you up. What do you think will happen? That's exactly what I think will happen. And I have the right to say what I think about these kind of things, because that's the way I think it's gonna happen. Why? Remember, a person who was abused will never forget the abuser. The abuser will forget, and the person who perceives that was abused, the same thing. So if you live nowadays here and you think, about 600 years ago, I don't know, the Poles invaded Romania, right? Moldova for that is, and they killed our ancestors. Well, when I'm going to have the upper hand now, because of that, reparations, I'm going to fuck up of the Poles. And the Poles will be, why? Are you crazy? That's the way it goes. So once they're going to have the power, you're going to have to go to Russia, because Russia and the Russian people will defend your European culture, civilization, ancestry, and so on. All right, let's go down here. Now they put Abramovich here. Abramovich is a Jew who lived in London and wherever. And they said that this was like a Trojan horse. No, he wasn't, because if you remember, he was given a lot of things after he was sanctioned. He was giving them back. Why? You know why. Here is Putin. Putin signed a decree that Russia would welcome foreigners. I covered this in 2 videos a year and a half ago, when they first said this. Foreign wanting to escape Western liberal ideals. Applicants may include those from countries unaligned with Russia's spiritual and moral values. The application process has been simplified, and visas may be issued as soon as next month. Russia, in many ways, an authoritarian state. Okay, you lost me. Let's go to the next one. See how they portrayed it? And Sputnik, new Russian residency law helps Westerners escape posthuman globalist madness. This is after death. Globalist madness. I think that's what it is. It's not madness because it's a plan. It's organized. Destroying these guys and their culture, their civilization. That's the plan. And then rule over whatever baboons are left over there, and they like maggots on a carcass. And after there's no more carcass, what are the maggots going to do? Die. Or the crows will come and eat them. Russia has rejected globalism. You know what that is? Okay, and now serves as a safe haven for Westerners who are feeling oppressed by neoliberal destructive ideas in their homeland, U.S. journalist Timothy Kirby, Kirby told Sputnik. President Vladimir Putin signed a decree on August 19, providing foreigners who share Russia's spiritual and moral values and who seek to escape the West's destructive neoliberal ideas with a temporary residence permit in Russia. And I'm quoting, the law provides Westerners something that they have sought for a long time, the opportunity to move to Russia, end quote, he said. An American-born journalist and radio host told Sputnik. Earlier, Western foreigners couldn't immigrate to Russia without a legal basis, but now the door has finally started to open. In a lot of ways, Russia is the country that is leading the fight against some of the absolute madness that comes from the West, Kirby added, referring in particular to the absurd idea that quote-unquote gender is some sort of social construct that has nothing to do with one's sex assigned at birth. So, Russia and the Russian people are facing the challenges of the 21st century. So, my friends, I'm glad they opened the door for that. But don't look at that as just running away. Look at that as moving over there, regrouping, and then coming back. And continuing our Western civilization's path to excellence. Thank you very much. Next one. We have the fight between the politicians who are trying to, I will do this, I will bring more this, I will bring more weapons. And how do they do that? They have the mass media accusing one of the leading politicians, well, I don't think you're doing enough for the party. I don't think you do enough for Ukraine. And those guys with weapons, the army, they don't like this. And then they start immediately like a needle in their ass. No, more weapons, everything open for Ukraine. Can't you see this pattern? If you can't, just pay attention. You don't need to look at patterns. And this is according to the Telegraph. This is 3 days ago. Starmer accused of weakening support for Ukraine. Like it's a given, you have to do it. Yes, there is, because you got Zelensky Stein over there. And that's the thing with these guys. You can do for them everything, every day for, I don't know, past 1945. So about, I don't know, 70, 80 years, let's put it. So you get, you go like that. And they guys say, hey, you don't do anything for me. And you say, whoa, hold on. I've been doing this in 1948. I did this for in 1950 some, 60 some, I did yesterday. And the guy's gonna tell you, yes, but you didn't do anything for me today. It's a given you have to. It's a given. No, it's not a given. But you have traitors like, I would say, Starmer, rather, who works for other interests, not for the UK's interest. So Starmer accused. He's gonna, tomorrow or the next few days, he's gonna come and say, no. Give them a long range, whatever they need, we're gonna give them. So Keir Starmer is under fresh pressure to lift sanctions on Ukraine's use of Storm Shadow missiles after Zelensky said British support was slowing down. What did you do for me today? And then you have this imbecile, Kiev Independent. Boris Johnson calls on West to let Ukraine strike Russian territory with long-range missiles. Now, this is from August 17th, right? So this is what, 5 days ago? And this was one from how many days ago? This is from 3 days ago. And then we're going to go to another one. Ukrainska Pravda. Boris Johnson calls for lifting of ban on Ukraine's use of Storm Shadow missiles in Ukraine. So he comes and said, I will make you reach or reacher to the interest. And they say, now the ball is in your court, Starmer. What are you going to do about it? Remember, this article were 5 days ago. And then they dropped the bomb on this guy and said, so what are you going to do about it, baby doll? I will cough up your money to Zelensky Stein. Next one. Ukrainska Pravda. Ukrainian parliament ratifies International Criminal Court statute. This is 21st of August 2024. What does that mean? That means that the Ukrainians agree for foreigners to go and take to court their people. So that means like I have my parents here, I have my children, I have my family, and then I give my father to be judged by the neighbors far away from here, from crimes that they accuse my father of doing. I wouldn't do that. But they participate. You know why? These are the weak countries that joined that, because Russia didn't join that. United States of America didn't join that International Criminal Court. China did not. The big countries will not allow other countries to imprison, to go take to court my people. But Ukraine does. So that tells you Ukraine is also already caught in this. Like, for instance, Yugoslavia. When some in Yugoslavia took Slobodan Milosevic and took him to Hague, I was, what's going on over here? Those were traitors. Anyway, let's move on. So this is how free Ukraine is. Ukrainian parliament supported the ratification of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court on Wednesday. Hurrah! All right, great. Next one. Fortune. Countries like Malaysia and Thailand are flocking to join Brics as a potential counterweight against US economic hegemony. Yes, because if you have a country that, let's say, wants something from you, and you say, well, I don't want to do that. If you would be equal and you would be a free person, it would be okay when you don't want. Like you tell your wife, or I don't know, another person over there, I want you to do this for me. And the other person, if it's equal and, will say, citizen, will say, no, I don't want to do this. That's his right. And you can't do squat unless it's illegal. But if you, in your brain, make that illegal, you're going to go and tell, hey, you do something that I deem illegal. And I impose sanctions on you. Based on what I consider to be illegal. I, as another entity, another civilian. And if you don't do what I tell you to do, like you're my servant or slave, then I will hurt you. Through imposing sanctions, I will impose sanctions, and if they don't work, then I will try a little uprising. It's called regime change. And then if that doesn't work, I will really go over there and boom, boom, Yugoslavia 1999, and I'm going to make you do what I want you to do. So this is the hegemony these guys are talking about. So a lot of countries already were kicked in the teeth with this kind of tactic. You do what I want? No. Sanctions on these guys. And then after that, you hope the country, the people, standard of living goes so poor, so bad, that they will somehow the government in charge. This is the whole goal. And that doesn't work like in Russia right now. You try a little regime change with some color revolution. And then it doesn't work, you try clearly a bombardment. Ukraine. Anyway, oh no, I'm sorry. Ukraine is the Russians attacked unprovoked Ukraine. Right. So that's why a lot of countries, small countries, they have to pick a club. Because if they don't pick the other club, they will leave themselves open to the Al Capone coming and telling them this. You pay protection or we're going to fuck you up. Then the guy, you know what, I'm going to go to the little Al Capone right here, which did not do this to me yet. So they go to the club of the very good, as I call it. And they will join Brics. The problem is we'll see how these guys will activate, click, some regime change, and some, always pay attention to this. When you see spontaneous uprising for some human rights violations, look at the NGOs that started that, they organized, and the cells activated from where? From the same common denominator, Al Capone. Not always, but overwhelmingly like that. Are there some human rights violations in some countries? There are. But right now it's very skeptical, I'm very skeptical when I look at this one, when I see something like this happen, like in Georgia. And exactly, it's not the Georgian opposition. Some people behind who? Remember the Maidan in 2014? The same guys. Now, let's go to the next article and topic. Ukrainska Pravda. Cases against American, Italian, and Ukrainian journalists who visited. They just visited. Remember, this is according to Ukrainians that they opened and they were upset with the Germans and with the Germans, I think they're from alternative from Germany, obviously, visited Crimea at one point in 2017, 18, something like this. And that was already when Crimea was part of was taken over by the Russians, let's put it mildly, okay? Because they voted in a referendum. We like referendums, don't we? No. We need a buffer zone that will stop the referendum. Right now, conduct a free, fair referendum in the United States of America regarding certain important issues, like for instance the border, the economy, the the system, the so-called democratic system of electing our officials and representatives. And you're going to find out these guys will vote the opposite than the so-called elected officials would vote in the, how do you call it, Congress. Why? Because those are other people's people, not the people who supposedly voted for them or against them by voting for someone else or refusing to vote whatsoever. So remember, the Ukrainians were very upset about it and they called it illegal. Now it's about visiting. These guys just visited, man. They just visited. Now this is selective values and objectivity for you. The Federal Security Service of Russia, FSB, has initiated criminal cases against American and Ukrainian journalists who filmed footage near the city of Sudzha, which is in Russia. In Russia, thank you very much, Kursk Oblast, after it was captured by Ukrainian forces. Now they say, you know why? Because you can't do shit about it. Just like that. So the case was initiated under the article about illegal crossing of the border. Specifically, the persons of interest in the case are CNN correspondent Nick Walsh and Ukrainian journalist Olesia Borovik and Diana Butsko. They all released footage from the town of Sudzha, which is controlled, occupied, illegally, right? But hey, that's what war happens, by Ukrainian forces. Earlier, FSB reported a criminal case has been initiated against Italian journalist Simone Traini. Isn't the guy who filmed that Ukrainian Nazi with a hat that I made a video on? Go and watch that one. You can't make shit up. This guy interviewed one Ukrainian, and the guy is with a Nazi insignia on his hat. God damn it, both of them. Or maybe it was meant to be that way. So maybe Mr. Simone Traini is a hero. And Stefania Battistini, who worked in work. They just worked in Sudzha. Later, Russian Foreign Affairs Ministry expresses protest of the Italian ambassador in connection with these events. FSB added that the journalist would be put on an international wanted list shortly, and they did. So the maximum sanction provided by the article on illegal crossing of the Russian border is 5 years imprisonment. And there's going to be illegal imprisonment. That's what the Americans will say, because it's illegal. It's illegal to imprison people who broke the Russian law. It's illegal. Like Navalny. Navalny broke the Russian law, embezzlement and others, wasn't he? And then he broke his parole by going to Germany without informing the authorities like you would do everywhere else. When he showed up in Moscow, the guys arrested him. Oy vey, they arrested Navalny. Yeah, he violated his parole statute. Out. What do you want? Go to prison, my boy. Oh, or not? Why? Special treatment? Oh, that's tyranny, my friends. All right, let's go to the next article. Coming from Ukraine Forum. Russia opens criminal case against CNN Hromadske reporters over war coverage in Kursk region. It's just war coverage, my friend. It's just war coverage. Now, if this is just war coverage, and the other one, the guys who were in Donbass, I think they were the same. It's just war coverage. No, the Ukrainians were very upset about it. Russia's FSB domestic security agency initiated a criminal case. Okay, next one. Russia opens criminal case against U.S. Ukrainian journalist filming in Kursk region. Okay, here it is, my friends. The Russian FSB has opened and it's investigating criminal cases against U.S. journalist Nick Peyton Walsh, the Ukrainian correspondents Olesia Nikolaevna Borovik, and Diana Vladimirovna Butsko, who illegally crossed the Russian state border and filming in the area of the village of Sudzha in the Kursk region, FSB said in a statement. The journalist will be put on the international war wanted list in the near future. If you guys, and I agree with that, I want the media to have access everywhere. You will say, well, that's war, man. You go and film and so on. But if that would be the case, then the same thing should apply to the other side. So when the, Ukrainians arrested those 5, you remember those 5 people, Ukrainians who filmed the first attack on Moscow when these guys have Patriot system deployed in non-Moscow, Kiev, and was hit, they did like a house arrest, 5 years imprisonment. So they're on parole right now, right? Why? Because they filmed where the Russians were attacking, disclosing the location. The Russians already knew that. So that's freedom of information. The same happened in Odessa. I covered that as well. About 1.5 years, the Russians attacked Odessa. A guy filmed the rockets coming. He was checked by these guys. So, you know what I mean? They disclose. So do the other ones. They disclose something the Russians don't want. And on the other side is my territory. But not no more. It seems like, again, justice should be blind and across the board. If that applies to you, the same thing should apply to me under the same circumstances. Next one. Russia to put border breaching Western journalists on international wanted list. This is according to Russia Today. So here you have them. We already know this, and we have the last article from Ukrinform, and it says Russia wants no peace talks, German foreign ministry said. All right. Of course, if it is Russia, not Ukraine, that is sabotaging potential peace negotiations. Hey, idiot, which is German Ministry of Foreign Affairs Sebastian Fischer, is Russia or Ukraine have that law or provision that no one should engage in negotiations with the Russian government, with Putin? Is Russia? Now, let me tell you this. The diplomat, he's a diplomat, noted that Ukraine is absolutely open to negotiation. That's a lie. Adding that it is Russia that rejects them. In particular, the Russians snubbed the invitation to the next peace summit. This is the imbecile's logic. I'm not going to show up in a court where all those guys are your guys, and you set the perimeter, and I'm over there like in an accused box, and I have no say. Besides, you are liars. So if you're liars and you are weak, why should I come and talk to you? Do you think the Americans will do the same thing? No. Why? Because they are lions on the savannah. The lions on the savannah don't do what the coyote or the jackal does on the savannah. Jackals are the ones who do that, but the lions don't do that. So the Russians had to, unprovoked, invade Ukraine for 4 reasons. 4 reasons. They said what could stop that. The other guy said, no, we want to queue up. This guy's okay. These are the reasons. These are the special military operation in Ukraine. These are the reasons. Until we accomplish all 4, we're not going to talk about anything. We talk about peace when these 4 will be fulfilled. The other guy is not ready. Okay, we're going to queue up, or you're going to fuck us up. That's the way it goes. So this diplomat, as they call him, is a liar. Is a liar. Russia said many times they want to discuss peace talks, but the same Ukrainians, we want to discuss peace talks, but we have to 10 points. Zelensky, imaginary, peace talks, peace negotiations list, which I think is just a infantile capitulation of Russia. And the Russian said 4 points, the other guy said 10 points. Well, why don't you meet first? Why don't you meet? Well, if Boris Johnson flew and said stop the Istanbul negotiations and they stopped it, what do you want? Do you think that these guys want to stop the profits of the owners of the guys? Did you see what Boris Johnson said? He wants his job back by giving your lives to the military interests. Pay attention, the same thing is the United States of America. These guys are not saying, you know what, we're going to stop, no. Like, for instance, Trump, he said, we're going to stop the war in Ukraine. And then with the other half of the mouth said, but we're going to focus to provide, orders to provide, work for the arms industry in the domestic. So, we're not going to send Patriot systems over there, let's say 20 in Ukraine, so you have to get the money from us and you build them. No, we're going to make 20 and we're going to put them in America. So you're going to get your money, but we're going to shift from outside Ukraine, fighting in Ukraine, we're going to put it supposedly in the domestic. So we're going to have a lot of weapons here that will defend us more than we need, let's put it this way. So you're going to have your money, but we switch from Ukraine to America. That's what Trump said. Do you think he gives a fuck about Ukraine? I don't think so. It's about these guys who are saying, we're going to pull the strings. We're going to pull the strings, the intelligence community plus the military industrial complex. How much we want, but we want to make sure that the money comes and the banks as well. The banks will supply America with money. American government will print money. Inflation will be up. People like you and I and our children and grandchildren will be taxed the shit out of that. And the big businesses, arms manufacturing companies, energy companies, and the banks will get fatter and fatter and fatter until the population realizes that, and some military will overthrow a few governments here and there. Not the people, the military. With the people. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.